exclusive learning programs, and you'll be getting implementation resources, speaker invites, and you'll be having access to all our newsletters. So without any further delay, I would like to tell you all more about our today's speaker, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Ellie Basmeyer. Ellie is a dynamic and outgoing professional with a deep passion for continuous learning, serving others, and building strong, meaningful connections. Known for her positivity, strong work ethic, and people first approach, she brings a fresh and insightful perspective to every conversation. We are thrilled to have her with us today as she shares her knowledge and expertise. Welcome, Ellie, and the virtual speaker is over to you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's not letting me start my video, just so you know. But maybe you can start it for me. And I will get my
Sure.
deck up. Let's see here. No, it just says it's been disabled by the host to start my video. Well, welcome everybody. I'll go ahead and dive in. That was a very kind introduction. I was not expecting all of those, but I do think that you captured my outlook in life spot on. I am a very positive person. I believe everything works out for good, and it's a joy to be here with all of you today. I wanted to walk through some content that we've been putting together to really help our HR team and our people leaders on how do you lead through change, right? This is something that should be no surprise to either of you. There we go. I got a request to start my video. Now you can see me. Thank you very much. I was also going to see if you could make me co-host in case we want to jump into breakout rooms and meet each other a bit. That'd be great. Awesome.
Yes, Ellie, I'm
Well,
ready.
thank you so much. Okay, so something that impacts us all is change, right? And change can feel exciting, but it can also feel uncertain, overwhelming. And as HR leaders or as managers yourself, you play a critical role in the experience of change. How do people navigate through change? And so I wanted to start quick game. Open up your chat, okay? I'm going to show you some half logos, and I want you to quickly type in what these logos are. Opening up my chat so I can see who gets it first. Who knows this one? Yes, thanks, Victoria. How about this? This is an old one. BlackBerry, yes, thank you. I don't know if anyone will know this one. Let's see. Who's going to take a picture and ask ChatGPT real quick? Let's see who gets it. Yeah. Oh, it looks like an orange. What about that was a palm? What about this one? Who remembers going to different events and it was a picture moment? Yes, Kodak. All right. Show of hand. Well, we can't really see people, but you could do a reaction. If you owned a BlackBerry, you probably loved your BlackBerry. All right. But what do all these companies have in common? They failed to respond to change. Okay. BlackBerry, Blockbuster, Kodak, Nokia, household names that are now cautionary tales. You're so right, Deepmala. Kodak, they did not change, right? They could have been the digital camera. Change happened to them whether they were ready or not. And that's the story in our life, all right? Whether we're ready or not, change is going to happen. We do not rise to the occasion, we fall to our level of preparation. And all of these companies failed to prepare. Blockbuster is a video rental service. They were huge in America. They should have been the next Netflix, all right? But they failed. Your Kodak moment, how many of you waited You would drop off your film and you'd wait a week for it to be developed. All right. We were dedicated to Kodak. And if they had changed, we would have followed them, but they did not prepare. So, give you a chance to just get to know each other, introduce yourself, and share a change that you've experienced in the past 6 months. How did it impact your work? Okay, you're going to do this in groups of 2 or 3. It looks like we can do 3. We're going to just give you 3 minutes. Introduce yourself and share a change that you've experienced in the last 6 months and how did it affect your work? All right, for those of you who are just joining, we're going to bring everyone back from a breakout room. We were just having people consider what was a change that they've experienced in the last 6 months and how did it impact your work? So just if you just joined, I'll let you go ahead and think about that as we bring the group back. We have 30 seconds for everyone to come back. All right, everyone is back. Thank you. I know it was short, but hopefully you got to talk to at least one other person. I am curious. Blessing, you were in a group. How did your conversation go? Oh, some people might not be able to go off mute. That's okay. So, depending on what industry you're in, your company might kind of look like where I work. Lots of change. Change is constant there. You might have product launches, hiring new employees, acquisitions, introducing whole new teams, um, conferences, uh, you know, pricing changes, changing the org structure. All of that is change. All right. Now, depending on where you're at as a company, are you pre-IPO? Are you in a growth stage? Are you post IPO? Are you established? Some of it is expected, like there's going to be new org changes, formal planning, formal people programs, a shift towards enterprise customers, but some might be unexpected, but still common, right? Maybe a market condition or a competitor push that alters the roadmap, a high priority initiative that's paused or maybe even shut down. The who owns this moment, all right? Some internal chaos. All of that can feel unexpected, but can be common depending on where you're at. The point is that the only constant is change, and this might be something you experience too. The author of The Downward Spiral of Change captured this chart, and I love it. All right, if you notice the current state is this black line here, and that yellow line that shoots up is what stakeholders mistakenly expect to happen when change occurs. They expect to introduce the change, and then people take off and march towards that change. That never happens. If you look at the red solid line, this happens most of the time. There is a temporary adverse performance impact when change is introduced, small or big. Now, with great change management, you might be able to minimize that dip, reducing the amount of time that performance is impacted and get back to productivity. All right. But to do that, you have to first understand, what do people go through when change occurs? Right? There is a variety of emotion. There's an initial shock. There's a denial. No, we've been working on this. We can't change course now. There's frustration. All my hard work for nothing. How am I supposed to pivot? Then there's experimentation. All right. Can we do this? Will it work? What if? And then there's integration. All right. That is the part where you become productive again. Now, I like to put this in a little metaphor for dancing. Okay. So, how many of you have been at a dance club before? I want you to imagine you're there now, you're dancing with 4 of your closest friends, you're in a circle, you have a great groove, and all of a sudden a 5th person comes in. What happens? Everyone has to take a step back, make room for that 5th person, and you have to find a new pace. You're kind of looking at each other, you're looking at the moves that they're bringing, and it takes a moment before you find a new groove. That is change. Everyone has to take a step back and find a new groove. Okay. We have seen this happen again and again, but we don't always carve out time for that pause, that step back. Right. I won't put you in breakout rooms again, but I want to hear you in the chat. All right. A change, I want you to think of a time a change made you question your role, maybe the value you brought to the team, maybe your certainty. What emotions came up and what helped you move forward? I and I don't think you can come off mute, but if you're able to, someone is welcome to share, but if not, throw it in the chat. All right, what emotions came up for you during a change? Okay, for me, yeah, frustration due to unclear expectations, fear, absolutely. Imagine a new leader comes in. It's a, will I have a place here? Am I going to get along with them? Yeah, thinking it won't work. Like, this change is not going to work. Why are we wasting our time? Doubt, anxiety. Yeah, you find yourself thinking about it. Maybe you go home from work and you're still thinking about this change or this ask of you. Absolutely. You can tell that a lot of these emotions are downward spirals. Change is unknown, right? We don't know necessarily what it will result in. And as human beings, we are not wired to think it's going to be great. All right. We go straight down, downward spiral. fear, anxiety, frustration, doubt. All right. So we need some help. And as leaders and as the HR folks, we can help people reduce some of those negative emotions and help them move forward. We say that the role of the manager, but this can absolutely be applied for people partners. Your organization has 3 roles when leading through change. All right. And I'd say they're all critical. We call them the 3 C's. First, you're a champion. You set the tone and embody the change yourself. Second, you're a connector. You have to bridge the gap between leadership's vision and then the team's daily work. And then third, you're a communicator. You ensure your team has clarity and confidence, right? They know the context, what they need. These are not just nice to haves. Research shows that managers and HR teams can make it or break it on if the change is going to work. Right? So I want to dive into these 3 and give you tools you could immediately use. The first is being a champion. All right. And we said this means that you set the emotional tone for how your team is going to experience the change. If you're anxious, they're going to be anxious. If you're doubting, they're going to doubt, right? But if you're confident, they're going to feel more confident. It doesn't mean like a fake positive, ha 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 cheerleader. All right. It's that you're intentionally being transparent, sharing your perspective, and being open to what will happen if you implement this change. So, you're going to learn the new process first. You're going to use the new tool. You're going to brainstorm on the positives, like what if this works? What could it look like? You're going to embody the new behavior. So, your team is going to look to you for confidence and guidance, and you really have to own that. A few ways that you can do this, right, is I think about the group that you're leading. Who are your amplifiers? These are your allies. They're going to support and reinforce the change. And who are your disruptors? They're going to challenge the change. Some people sometimes in a company call them the squeaky wheels. They're going to have an opinion that might disrupt or negatively impact this change. All right. So you're going to think about those 2 audiences, and you're not going to dismiss the disruptors. In fact, you're going to engage with them. You're going to spend a little bit more one-on-one time, understand their concerns, because their insights might make it stronger for you. All right. I'm going to share a story that comes out of New York. They were building back in the 1800s. So I think it was like 1869. They were building this Brooklyn Bridge, okay? And everyone thought that the engineer and the person with the vision, the leader, were crazy, okay? Architects, other people in the world said, this can't be done. This is too long of a bridge. It's too expensive. The public said it was too dangerous. The politicians said it would fail. All right. All of these people were skeptics. These people were the active disruptors. They were trying to stop the project. Okay. But here's what's brilliant. Instead of dismissing the disruptors and just continuing work, the Roeblings, the one who were put the vision out for this and were financing the project, they invited them all for a meeting. They sat down. They shared all the plans that they had. They asked why they were so against it. And they learned that a lot of people were afraid. They were afraid that the bridge would collapse and they would lose their loved ones. All right. They were afraid that it wouldn't hold up. They've never seen such a big bridge. So the Roeblings thought, how can we show them that it's safe without asking them to cross it themselves? So what they did was they hired P.T. Barnum, which was a circus, a performing circus. They had 21 elephants march across the bridge. All right. They had camels, they had large animals march across the bridge to and from, parading how safe it was. Everybody clapped and applauded, and they turned those disruptors into believers by taking their concerns seriously and then providing evidence and data that this could work. So you need to change the resistance on your team by hearing them and then pointing to evidence of what could turn it around. You can, as a people organization, strategize with leaders to be accountable for cascading the communication. By championing the change, it's like making them available to hear some from the disruptors. Okay, you can design like open office hours, recurring meetings just to check in or get input. All right, but you can do all of that by championing the change and hearing from both amplifiers and disruptors. Mhm. I won't put us in breakout rooms because not everyone was able to join, but I just want you to think of a current change that's impacting you right now at work. What's your biggest disruptor saying? And how will you engage them? Okay, a change that you have, what's the disruptor saying, and how will you engage them? We're going to move on into the connector. All right. So change is not just a process, it's an emotional experience. You talked about all those feelings that you have when change is initiated. That's emotional, that's mental too. You feel that in your body, anxiety. All right. So monitoring emotions is so critical. You need to understand how your people feel about a change so you can connect that up or down. All right. And provide the support needed. So, your role as a connector is to ask the questions up and answer the questions down. You are literally the bridge between leadership's vision and the team's execution. If your team doesn't see the connection between that big picture and their work, they're not going to engage in the change. So, if they need clarity, ask the questions. All right. Answer questions to your team if they ask. If you don't understand, that's okay. I'll give you some language in a minute of what you can do when you don't have it. But without strong connectors, they are checked out. They don't believe in this change. They don't want to be part of it, but whatever, they'll do it because it's the job. You might have people who are open but cautious. They're going to do it. They're like, yeah, It's your ability to deliver the right message that is going to make this be a success. And the good news is there's very simple frameworks for you to be able to get this right. Number one thing I say is you have to cascade the information. All right. Leadership should get messaging first. They should be able to process it. Managers, then individual teams. If you have layers in between that, like we call our like C-suite -1, we call them our operating team. So they would have a layer in there. Big thing is to cascade the information, allow for processing questions, maybe even iterations based on feedback you hadn't thought of, right? And then you want to practice empathy with how you communicate with each of these. All right. So I love to say, after I communicate this change, what do I want each person to think, feel, do, and say? That should guide how you create your messaging, right? I'm going to tell Ellie that we are hiring a new CHRO, all right, which means a new boss for her. What do I want her to think at the end of it? What do I want her to feel? What do I want her to do? And what do I want her to say? That is going to change how you share the news. And it's really practicing empathy through your communication. The other framework that we tell every leader to use are the 4 Ps. Maybe this is something you've seen, right? Every time you communicate about a change, make sure you cover these 4 elements. So, purpose. Why is this change necessary? What does success look like after this change? Picture, all right? Help them visualize the future state. Plan. How will we get there, right? What's the roadmap? And then I love this part. Literally, it's called part. What's each person's role in making this happen? What's expected of them specifically? So when you hit all 4 Ps, people feel informed, they feel empowered, and it eliminates a lot of those feelings of confusion, frustration, and anxiety. Right? Maybe you don't know some of this though, and this is what I said I would get to. You can, if you are still processing the change, but you have to cascade the information, be transparent. It's going to build trust. So you can use these mini scripts. Here's what I know. Here's what I'm still learning. And here's what I commit to as your manager. All right. Now, I want you to go back to that change that you were thinking about that you're currently leading. As you think about being a champion, what concerns from your team might you anticipate? How can you model confidence without faking certainty? What's one question you need answered from your leadership team? And what's a question your team keeps asking? And then communicator, how can you draft a clear and motivating purpose statement for this change? Meaning, why is this change necessary? I want to give you a chance to kind of dig into this and work with a few other people. We're going to try the breakout rooms one more time, and I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. I want to make sure you're all here. Yep. And then I'll bring you back. I'll display this screen into the breakout rooms so you can still see it, but I want you to talk through your change and how you can be a champion connector and a communicator. Before I do that, any questions? Okay, we'll see you back here. All right, we have people coming back. Don't think that people were able to unmute, which is okay. Let's see. Yeah, it says they can unmute themselves. Good. Okay, well, I want to hear from you, and um, I promised I would take questions at the end. So going back through champion, connector, and communicator, what questions can I answer? And I just want to, can everyone chat it in if you have a question or if you can't unmute yourself?
Really, I'm sorry, but they won't be able to unmute themselves. However, they can chat, they can mention the message in the chat box itself.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah, can you give us an example of how it works? Yes. So, um, in a scenario, yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Um, pick a change. Throw in a scenario, like one change for me, and then I'll walk you through it. So maybe a change you're going through right now, or just pick one, and then I will take that change and walk you through. Yeah, budget cuts due to decrease industry production. Okay, we will do those. We'll do those too. So this is a bummer, right? An external factor requires budget cuts. It's not something that's exciting. So how do you do this? Great question. Thanks, Victoria. So champion the change. You're going to first empathize here. You're going to say, I have some hard news to deliver. And you're going to tell them what the change is. And then you are going to tell them why they matter, why this is more important than ever that they show up. Okay, if that is, I believe in the work that we're doing and we can still make a really big impact with these budget cuts. All right. Um, or you're going to tell them how it's affecting you. I wasn't happy when I first heard this news, right? But I do believe in the company and where we're going. And I think if we can focus on X, we can really come out of this actually ahead, right? You also could reframe where their mindset is. Sometimes budget constraints or budget cuts is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's an opportunity to do more work that they were interested in. All right. So we can expand your role. We can give you a stretch assignment. You'll know what individually motivates each person. Is there a way to tie that to their internal motivators? Then you can be a connector. How long is this going to be for? All right. Maybe your team has some questions of like, is this going to impact bonuses? Is this going to affect my, promotion for the future? Think about those questions, answer what you have. If you don't have it, say, I'm talking to leadership about how this impacts each of our individual roles, right? Right. Then talk to leadership and you say, hey, my team is feeling really demotivated. They're choosing to believe that there's no future for them at this company. Then you flag that to leadership. You say, what can I tell them? Right. So work with leadership on crafting a message. What does that really mean? Is this maybe a 2-year thing, but if they hang in there, is there an opportunity to give some like retention bonus for people who ride this out? Right. Then you're going to be a communicator to them and you're going to say like, listen, if we didn't control this change, but if we can respond to it proactively, we're going to come out ahead. Whatever that might be. And you use your 4 Ps again, and I'll go back to that. Right. I'm looking at the chat now. What happens when management team is divided during a change process? That's really important. I'm really glad you brought that up, Bosco. Probably something that I need to add in here is a slide on roles and responsibilities. You should absolutely be doing RACI or rapid, whatever model you use. listing out decisions that need to be made, who's the decision maker. So when management is divided during a change process, they need to be reminded that they need to be these 3 C's. They need to be a champion, a connector, and a communicator. How can they do that if they're divided? Who's the clear decision maker? Once the decision is made, you need to get behind it and support it, right? So sometimes it's having a direct conversation with management. AI and ML are becoming deeply integrated across almost every sector, from automation and data analytics to customer service and cybersecurity. It's so true. If you don't get on this AI bus right now, you are not setting yourself up for success in the very near future. So how can you get your team to get on board for this, but make sure that they're being, prudent, ethical, and they are using it the correct way? Curious from the group if anyone has thoughts about that. When an external hire happens, we personally just went through this. We hired a new chief people officer, and she's fantastic. And she's coming in and really challenging how we thought about things before and asking us to kind of re-engineer a lot of our programs and processes and, asking the right question. Why do you do it like this? At the end of a performance review cycle, what what are you solving for? Is there another way to get that information, right? And so, um, my advice when there's an external hire is, one, for the current team, give grace. Remember what it was like when you started a new role. You come in really energized, you have great ideas. Sometimes you forget that the team has already been there before you and has been doing well. All right. So give grace, harness that energy of the new hire. And then the other thing is, for the new hire, as an external hire, listen, ask questions. That's the number one thing you can do, is understand and build trust quickly. And then same if you are currently on the team and you have an external hire, get to know the person. Try to build trust and rapport first before digging into the work. Yeah, how do you support people who feel stuck in the middle of transition? Understand why, what's happening. So asking questions, understanding where specifically they feel stuck. Sometimes it's a small little thing like, my work isn't being seen, or I don't know what I should be focused on now, or they just completely undid 6 months of what my project had been. And now I have to pivot and I don't feel very motivated. So if you can talk to them, make them feel heard, and then it really is kind of a personal motivation. How can you leverage what motivates them and help them with a path forward? I love to use the GROW coaching model. And so it's first like, get clear on the goal. What is it that they really want? What do they want to be different? What's the reality? Where are they right now? Are they feeling demotivated? Are they feeling unclear? Whatever that is. What options do they have to get motivated? So talking them through that. And then what's the way forward? What's that first step? Maybe it's, I'm going to have a one-on-one with the leader, or I'm going to meet with other people who have concerns, or I'm going to meet with an amplifier, someone who's really excited about this, and I'm going to try to like learn from them and shift my mindset. But is this something we can escalate if the change hasn't been clearly communicated? I highly recommend it. So if you're on the receiving end of this and you're like, hey, I don't understand. Like, why are we doing this? What are we solving for? You could ask the 4 Ps, and you can just say, I want to be a team player. I want to see this company be successful. I want to see this team grow, whatever it is. Say, can you help me understand? If we implement this, what does success look like? What is your assumption, or what is your expectation of my role? How can I help bring this to life? Yeah, if you can, the positive scripting there is important. If you can help get someone's buy-in quickly, of like, yeah, I want this to be successful too. I really want to see this company thrive. Okay, well, who's going to say no to that? Merging of divisions or branches, it can be a challenging discussion. If the new manager is all about quick transformation without following the natural process, how do you advise them as HR? First is who are you solving for? I'll go back to the merging one. I did see that. But a new manager, quick transformation, we're not going to follow this natural process that maybe it could be slower before. Talk to the manager and be like, we know you're excited about implementing these changes. We probably do need these changes with how quickly the landscape of technology or whatever your industry is changing, right? You want to avoid burnout, you want to avoid a decrease in morale. And so I might advise the manager of the change curve and say, hey, we're excited to do this. All right. Um, I want you to know anytime you implement a change, there's a dip in performance and you really value moving quickly. And if we implement too many changes, we're going to really slow down performance. So let's make sure we're really introducing this change correctly, cascading information, getting people's input. You can still move fast. The other thing I would say is sometimes just in HR, like change feels like a heavy lift because you get the people coming to you asking questions. Um, Ask yourself, who am I solving for by resisting this change or by wanting this leader to move slower? Are you solving for your top talent? Are you solving for your middle, meets expectation employees? Are you solving for your HR team because this will be a heavy lift behind the scenes? Who are you solving for? And just double check your mindset because sometimes we overemphasize for employees who maybe aren't top talent or they're just delivering and that's great, but they'll be the loudest. And then is that okay if they're unhappy? So just asking yourself that. Merging of divisions or branches can be very challenging. So same company, new team. I've worked with this leader like cross-functionally before, but now they're my direct leader. How do you do this? Um, have your leaders do listening tours. I love a new leader assimilation process, even though this person has been at the company. It's asking the individuals, what do you think it's important for me as the leader to know for us to be successful? What challenges do you think we might face in the next 3 or 6 months? What's one thing that I could do to help you be more effective in your role? So asking the leader or asking the employees that have just been maybe inherited by this leader these questions. So doing a little listening tour or an assimilation where the employees feel like the leader wants to learn from them. Great. I love all these questions. I feel like I could just talk about this for days. You can find me on LinkedIn and I'm happy to, hop on a call and chat with you or just, chat through direct messages on LinkedIn. I'm seeing another question. Let's see. As discussed in class, the manager plays 3 critical roles. Yep. With that in mind, we recognize that everyone crosses the bridge. Yes. Who acts as both connector? How can I effectively support individuals at both ends of the spectrum? Yes. Okay, I have an idea about this. I haven't played around with this yet, but I was actually just thinking about this earlier this week. The people who are very excited about the change, how could you actually make them, we call them the amplifiers. How could you make them an ambassador of the change or maybe even like mesh them with someone who's the detractor and hope that their energy like could feed the detractor? So how can you like harness the amplifier and help them maybe understand why so and so is not feeling the same? So you could almost give them a little mini leadership role. Like, I'm really happy to see that you're on board for this change, and we need that energy to be successful. There's a few people who don't feel the same way as you, and I was hoping you could meet with them, understand their concerns, and kind of feed it back to me so I can report to leadership, right? So giving them the opportunity to be a leader and understand the learning and maybe even come up with a recommendation. Um, yeah, and then in this context, isn't team building a crucial strategy? Absolutely. Trust is huge here. So any way that pre-change, before you introduce a change, you can have team building as like the norm, trust will be there. People are going to be more willing to shift. All right, it looks like there's an important announcement they're going to make shortly. Awesome. Prim,
Yes,
do you want
Ellie.
me?
Post the Q&A session, we'll do the announcement. So before that, I believe that you have already taken almost all the questions from the chat box, right?
Yes, I have.
So yeah, great, perfect. So what we'll do, we'll just take some questions that we have received across live platform and post that. We'll continue with the session. So okay, so I'm reading a question for you, which we have received through live. So what's one tool or framework you have personally found most effective when guiding teams through change and why?
Yeah, the 4 Ps, it resonates so nicely with individuals. So sharing um, the plan and the part, and of course, now I'm forgetting the 4th P, the I gotta go to it. Let's see. The purpose, the picture. What does success look like after the change? And then the plan and the part. People love that the messaging varies by team. So you put every manager in charge of rewriting the 4 Ps and sending their team a message. We're a heavy Slack culture company, right? And so if we've implemented a change, we have asked every um, like manager of manager to write the 4 Ps out and how it directly will impact their team and to cascade that to everybody on that rolls up to them. So I love that because it's personalized, it's relevant, and it's not just a blanket, here's what we're doing, but it's actually like, here's how you play a part in that.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ellie, for answering this one. I believe, Ethan, you have received your answer. The next question we have received from Nathaniel. He's asking, in fast-changing environments, how do you balance transparency with uncertainty during employee conversation?
Yeah, empathy. You listen to them, you understand why why are they feeling that way? What is their fear? Sometimes it's job security, sometimes it's like a belief that they're not gonna get to work on what they want to work on. Sometimes it's they're afraid that they won't get promoted or have a future at the company. So understanding their fear, but also just not expecting them to be excited, like shift your mindset, understand the change curve. Everybody has a dip, even with the best change management practices. There is a whirl of emotions. And as humans, the first one is a worry.
Thank you very much for beautiful answer, Ellie. The next question that we have received from Umar, I can see what varieties of opportunities does a HR stands to gain?
Yeah, can you say that again?
Sure, sure. So the question is, what varieties of opportunities does a HR stands to gain?
Yeah, I think you get to be, as you coach leaders to implement these change management practices, you actually become more of a strategic partner because you are helping reduce the amount of time that people are unproductive. So you're trying to shorten that time from reaction to productivity. And you can become very valuable by educating them.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much, Ellie. So moving forward to the next question we have received from Sophia. She's asking, can you share a real example where a people first approach helped shift resistance into buy-in during a transformation?
Yeah. Um, so sharing an example, is that what it said? Can you
Yes.
repeat?
Can you
Yeah.
share a real example? Yes.
Yeah. So in a previous role, we followed kind of this model and we eliminated ratings in our performance review cycle. And you can imagine that there's some people who didn't like that. There's other people who were happy with it. And so we had to really make people understand that we were still going to, well, we had to first understand the people who weren't going to be happy. Why did they feel like ratings would benefit them? And then through listening to some of the detractors, we learned, it's that um, I feel good when I have like a score for my work and it reflects or reinforces how I think I did. Um, it's a belief that bonuses or things will be tied to that. So we had to address um, by not doing ratings, decoupling compensation. Like you will be paid for your performance through different ways, like spot bonuses, impact awards. But it was not going to be backwards looking. We are going to do real time feedback in the moment and reward you real time. Um, and that you didn't need a score at the end of 6 months, but you needed a score all throughout the year. So it really did help because we had to listen, we had to, like, flag to HR the compensation team, like, concerns, and then get answers from them, and then cascade it back down. Um, we had to check in on morale and make sure that people's, like, productivity that there was no retention concerns because, like, they believed that they weren't going to be rewarded for their work. Um, we had to really amp up anytime feedback, so normalize asking for feedback. But yeah, we did use a lot of this framework, and it turned out well. And we didn't have to do it over a year's time. We were able to make this change in a short period of time, but by like really doing the legwork, making sure we cascaded the information. We even changed some of our messaging after it went to like our um, C-suite -1 based off of the questions they got, so bulking up the communication, FAQs, having office hours, things like that really helped.
Thank you very much, Ali, for answering this in very much detailed one. Thank you. So yes, moving forward to the next question that we have received from Olivia. She's asking, what's your go-to method for diagnosing where change is getting stuck in an organization?
Diagnosing when change is getting stuck. Yes. Like if someone can't swing back up, um, that I would recommend you have to stay connected. So whatever the audience is, maybe you're staying connected to managers, but you need to have this two-way communication so people can flag to you like, hey, this team is still in the red. This team is still feeling angry about it. I don't know how to get them to productivity, right? But it's staying connected to the individuals or to managers, having a way for them to flag, like I have a concern. You can do a pulse survey. You can do a poll for managers and say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your team morale or productivity, whatever you want to measure after this change. And you could do that, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. Each week, just do a pulse, and then you know who to follow up with.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll take a few more questions as we still have time for the Q&A. So I still request all the participants, please stay connected till the end as we do have some great announcement for all of you. And if you have any question, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box so we can take it. So yes, moving forward to the next question that we have received from Jacob, asking how do you evaluate if a change initiative is truly people centric versus just process driven?
Yeah, how do you evaluate if it's truly what?
It's truly people centric
People
versus or
centric.
just process driven.
Oh, yeah, you start with the why. Why are you making this change? Right? You need to be able to answer that before you implement any change. Is it to save time? Is it to um, increase engagement? Like, if you can answer the why, then you'll know, is this process driven? Are we trying to check a box, or is this people centric? I'd love to hear in the chat too, what are some people centric changes your company has gone through versus process? You could even just tell me like a process change versus people centric change. It's an interesting question. And we'll see if that comes through. Are there more questions?
Yeah, we still have two, three questions I can see.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, the question that we have received from Nathan is asking again, when change fatigue sets in, what are three things you do immediately to re-energize teams?
Yes, that's awesome. Okay, how can you get a team excited? So, one, it's like talk about the change and why you're excited. So you can get people excited, give them, we go to work to deliver results. No one goes to work and says, I am going to do a bad job today, right? So can you get someone excited about the work itself, giving them like clear, tangible deliverables where they feel productive? You've probably heard of the progress principle. If people can feel forward momentum, that feels very engaging. Like you cannot deny how good that feels. And so giving them something like some easy wins or small things that they can check off that they did can feel good. Another thing, we talked a little bit about team building. Why don't you do something fun with the team? Like take them to an escape room, bring a mobile escape room to your building, or you can even now, we're doing this in some offices, we bought escape room kits. So everyone in the room, you just like kind of set out the different puzzles and everyone works together to solve it. All right. So doing something where it requires people to work together, but it's outside of the work. Um, Share a team meal. You can do a little poll and ask people like, hey, if we were to spend an hour together, would you like it to be a team walk, a team meal, or happy hour, like a team charity event? We're going to give back to the community, right? So getting the team together and just like rebuilding the human side of the team is great. Again, giving them work, like clear, tangible goals. People really want expectations. So saying like, I know that this change um, doesn't feel great right now, but I think that our team can show up as champions and we have the power to positively impact the rest of the organization, right? Like inspiring them that if we can step up and be a leader, like as a group here, we're actually going to mobilize the rest of the company. And that's cool. So again, figuring out what motivates your individuals and asking them to show up in that way. I really recommend putting a time limit on the complaining though. All right. We could just talk about a change and how it was a bad decision and how like who is leadership to come up with that and blah blah blah, and it's just going to keep bringing morale down and you just do a circle circle circle. I recommend limiting that behavior as a leader or as HR, putting a time frame on it. We have 1 week. After a week we need to be on board for this.
Great. Thank you so much, Ellie, for answering this one. So we'll be taking this question as the last question, as we have already done, almost done with the scheduled time for the Q&A. So the question that we have received from Olivia, she's asking, what's one mistake you often see HR leaders make during change, and what's a better way to handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one mistake I see people making is when I shared the curve, and it's how people believe this one. I'll show you. Da, da, da. Leaders have had weeks, sometimes months, to plan behind closed doors this change. They've been thinking about it. We say you've been noodling on it. They come in and they introduce this change. Woohoo! And they expect everyone to be excited about it, right? That is the number one mistake. You have to cause or provide space for the pause. All right. It is not going to happen if you think that you got to make this decision or introduce this change after 3 weeks of considering it, and you want everyone in the next 5 minutes to be on board for it. You have to give people space.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ellie, for answering all the questions. In case if I'm missing any questions, I would like to request all the participants, please do reach out to a speaker. I've already shared her LinkedIn profile link in the chat box, so please do reach out to her. I believe she's more than happy to help you all. So before I proceed further with the session, I would like to request our speaker today, Ellie, please do share your final thoughts or statement for all participants today.
Yeah, I encourage each of you to really become more strategic partners as you lead your organization through change and you help your leaders or managers do the same. Help all of them be, a champion, a connector, and a communicator. You get to do that, and really you'll see an improvement in how your company responds to change. And then the final thought is just lead with empathy. What do you expect or want individuals to think, feel, do, and say after they learn about a change? So thank you all for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ali, for wonderful session, and thank you very much for sharing such a beautiful thoughts. So really appreciate that. So as I mentioned earlier, that we do have some great announcement for all the participants. So yes, this is regarding the certification. That is today's feature certification, certified human resources professional, strategy, analytics, and leadership. So you will find all this HR club certification. You can opt out for this, as we do have the certifications on recruitment professionals, HR analytics, generative AI for HR and LNG, chief human resources officer, HR business partner, and human resources professional. So you can opt out for this certificates, and you can use this promo code, which is HR Expert 20 to get an amazing discount over the certifications. As the certifications are lifetime validated certification, which come along with the learning resources, where you'll be getting a lot of case studies to work on, e-learnings and book of knowledge. Also, these certifications are lifelong learnings, which come along with the learning flexibility. So also you'll be getting a chance to connect with our training partner channel, and you will be having an opportunity to work on the capstone project, that is real-time AI simulation practice. So do grab this opportunity. You will find the link in the chat box. I've already shared it. So yes, I'm very happy to announce it that we tomorrow, sorry, on 31st July, we'll be having session with these two incredible speaker with two time slot, that is 8:30 a.m. CST first slot and 10:30 a.m. CST second slot. So please do join us for these upcoming sessions as well. As you all know, that earlier I announced that we'll be having this session from 28th to 1st August 2025 with two different time slot. So as you all know that we do have this incredible panel of speaker aligned for this entire webinar series. So please do join us for this remaining sessions, as well as we'll be having 60 minutes of impactful session and 15 minutes of Q&A. And also you can refer your friends and colleagues to this webinar series, and by doing that you can earn rewards that is worth $400. And also remember one thing, referring people to knowledgeable sessions, you are already becoming a thoughtful leader and you are enhancing your credibility. Also, top three winners will be featured on the GSDC Wall of Fame. So I congratulate to all these three who have ranked top at our leaderboard by referring maximum people to this specific to this webinar, which is SGSDC Global HR Excellence Series 2025. So yes, we'll be announcing all the winners at the end of the webinar series. So you still have time to refer maximum people to our session. So if you want to be a speaker and if you want to make an impact, you can join us as a featured global speaker for our upcoming webinars, as we do have platforms like Learning Capsule, webinar, and the podcast. So yes, we would love to connect with you all. You can scan this QR. You can connect with us over the social media platform, that is LinkedIn. You can connect with us over the WhatsApp to get daily updates on the event and the webinars that we do conduct. Also, do not forget to share your session takeaway and the learning outcomes on the Trust Pilot. You will find the link in the chat box. And also, you can explore our website, that is www.gsdcouncil.org, to get more information and details regarding the certifications that I've mentioned earlier. Also, you can check the links that I've shared in the chat box. Thank you very much for joining us for today's session. I hope to see you all for the upcoming sessions as well. Till then, keep learning. Take care and bye bye. Thank you very much, Ellie. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye.